In this video, we'll create our own ROS service server that other nodes can call. We'll use the add2ints service definition from the example interfaces package. Let's start by adding that dependency. As always, to add that dependency, we'll add a new depend tag to our package manifest, specifying the example interfaces package. And in our CMake list file, we'll add a call to find package and then add the package name to our ament target dependencies call. Now let's look at the structure of the add2ints service that we're going to implement. The request contains two numbers, A and B, and the response holds the sum of those two numbers. Now that we know what service we're going to implement, let's add our new node to the RJ training package and take a look at its code. And as it turns out, writing a service server in C++ is actually easier than writing the client. We're again creating a class for our ROS node, this time called service server demo node. Then we add a service member variable of type service templated on the actual service type that we're going to use, add2ints. To initialize this service member, we're going to call create service. Again, we use templates to pass in the type of the service, then we need to give it the name, and finally, we need to give it the callback that will be triggered when a service request is received. In this case, we're simply using bind to give it the callback function we've defined in our class. That callback function takes in the request and response in as parameters. Note that the request parameter is const because it's a read-only parameter. We can't change our request message. But the response message is something we're expected to fill out as we run this function, so its type is left not constant. In the body of our callback function, we are simply setting the sum field of the response message to the sum of the request A and request B variables. And that's all the C++ code for our service server. Anytime a client calls our service, our callback function will be triggered with the request the client sent. We then fill out the response and return from this function, and ROS handles getting that response back to the client for us. All that's left is to go into our CMake file, add our new source file to our library target, and register the class as an executable node. To demonstrate this node working, we'll need two terminals. In one terminal, we'll run our server demo node, and in the other terminal, we'll use the command line tool to call our service. Again, we give it the name of the service, the type of the service, and the field values for the request. In this case, we're sending 2 and 5. And when we run that, we see the usual output. We're waiting for the service to be available, then sending the request with the values 2 and 5, and then the response we get from the server says that our sum is 7. So we can tell that we successfully implemented our add2ints service server. And that's it. This week we've learned more about services, how to interact with services using the command line tool, and how to create servers and clients in C++ nodes. I'll see you all again next week.